Hi everyone, I'm Luke. My presentation today is on a product I'm currently building, very much kind of 100% non-technical. I've put it inside of it, Claude and the Claude. And that's
the microphone closer to your mouth.
Can you hear it now? Is that a little bit better? Okay. I'm very conscious of my own voice being all booming across the room, so I won't talk too loud. But yeah, so that's me, very excited builder. Dom, how do I change the slides? Just in here? Perfect. Okay, so there we go. Give you a bit of a background of who I am in terms of why I'm a 100% non-technical builder. I've spent pretty much my career within talent, so behaviors, acquisition, assessment, personality profiling, all of those good things, right? At the same time, personally, for the last 15 years, I've been trading futures on the exchanges in the US, predominantly within NYMEX, CME, a little bit on the Eurex. And effectively, as you can hear from my accent, I'm not from Australia and not from these shores. So when I arrived here 4 years ago, I realized how far this place actually is from anywhere in the world, right? So from my perspective, it's a beautiful place, but in order for me to do what I do, I needed to work nights. So that effectively meant half past 12 till probably 7:30 in the morning. And if anybody has worked nights, you know by night 3 or 4, forget it, you're done, right? And because I am what you call a classic point and click trader, so effectively I look at imbalances in the market, I looked at price ladders and what comes in and effectively happens in that moment, it just wasn't happening. I wasn't computing and it wasn't happening for me. So I needed to create what I call a second pair of eyes. There is you can't hear me back there? How about volume? What if I go like this? I won't sing, but if I go like this, is that better? Bit better. Okay, so I'm sorry for people in the front if I'm shouting, but people in the back, hopefully you can hear me. So where was I? So effectively, I couldn't do it. I kept on breaking, so I needed to create a second pair of eyes. So I know what I'll do. I'll go and create a Copilot. So effectively someone or something that will look at the market from my perspective and look at it from what I do. I didn't want another charting platform. I didn't want another provider for looking at that market. I wanted to warn me and advise me to say, this is happening based on your style of trading, right? Okay, great. So I heard of AI. Let's go. Let's build it with AI. And then I entered something called the LLM Valley of Death, right? Which effectively means I went and worked with all the different models that I knew of at the time. So I'm not going to start naming them because I'm sure they're all very good and was all user related. And I kept on getting the same error message that said, I know I can do it, but in the end, it just wasn't working, right? So again, 100% non-technical. So for me, it was prompting, reprompting, going back and forth and trying to get it created. So I almost gave up and until I heard this name, which was Anthropic and Claude, and their guys can do it. And I was like, okay, well, let me try and see what Claude can do. Again, I gave a very specific, a very short piece of advice, a piece of design that needed to connect to the platform that I was using, which was effectively C# to kind of feed that data back into the language model that can then effectively translate all of it into human performance. So it did it, right? So we had a couple of conversations. I know what you're after, just my subscription. And I went, no, it's okay, I can do it. So it did it. I went, okay, this is great. Let's go on our journey. So that's when I started to design my build, right? And what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a Copilot. That Copilot that built a unique profile of me as an individual and my own behavior patterns. I wanted to see behavior in the market. So when I clicked long, short, entry, exits, whatever it may be, however amount of time I would have spent into it, I wanted to kind of get smarter every session and build a profile again of me. I wanted to kind of use and understand the headspace that I'm in. So the language for me, and I spoke to somebody earlier, was if you're having a great day and you're trading well, you're up and it's all good, that is a very different conversation you're going to be having with a potential Copilot to where you're having a bad day, things are going wrong. So I needed to make sure that the language that I created around it was very much kind of we, you, the I, we work as a team, you don't mess up, that kind of thing, right? And I wanted to kind of speak up and have proactive alerts. So what I mean by that, closest way I can describe it is a voice, and we're connected up to ElevenLabs, that speaks and says, you're currently been in this trade for 3 minutes, based on your own individual profile, at minute 4, things start to go wrong. right? So it knows that from my own personal data. And what I needed to do is build context, and I needed to build a little bit more of a profile. So I gave it 2,000 of my own trades, 60 sessions, 5 years, and I worked with Claude. I was Claude back and forth. What do we do? How do we do it? What's kind of the patterns? What's emerging? And what started to emerge was my own behavior. So it wasn't very much kind of market conditions. It wasn't my trading style. It was that I do stupid shit sometimes when things go either wrong or I'm on a good win or whatever it may be. So behavior. And I kind of thought, well, I know behavior. I do that for a living. I've done that for 20 years. I know what behaviors are. So I ended up going, okay, let's build this and let's build it together. And 70,000 lines of code later. And I put this specifically with Claude AI Chat. Again, if I refer back that I'm a non-technical user, so I sat there for months going, hey, Claude, I need you to build me this. Okay, well, how do we build it? And I go back and forth. Well, that is not working on a SQL database. That is not working on N8N because of whatever Postgres connections it might be, right? And back and forth, and I had, again, zero prior coding experience. So all these little APIs here, I won't go through them. You guys can see what they are. And what did I end up looking like? So like this. And again, I can't go through all of it because there's so much of it. All these different workflows, whether it's real-time behavior, whether it's profiling, voice control, memories, webhooks, all sorts of amazing things that I would not be able to do without Claude. And as I said this, I've tried all the other different LLMs, and I really weren't producing what I wanted to produce. So if anybody ever says to me, what have you done with your life? I can always say I've built 70,000 lines of code, half of which went in the bin. So, and then effectively, I can't continue using Chat AI. I need to kind of upgrade my game, and I need to make it into something a little bit different. So I've heard of this Claude Code. I'm like, what the hell is a Claude Code? And I kind of made an agreement of Opus to say, if we talk here for design purposes, we do all the design work in Chat in terms of the sequencing layout and what it looks like, what it should look like. And we do all the coding within Claude Code. And that's what we did, right? Back and forth, back and forth. And I kind of just say, I was like the monkey in the middle at one point, because I was like, hey, Opus, Claude is asking me if I can update a bash command. Yeah, that's fine. Tell it to update a bash command. And I was like, hey, it's asking me to update an API. Yeah, that's fine. Tell it to update your API. So I was kind of like person in the middle, back and forth with it. I reached a point where I was really comfortable. I went, okay, well, just kick my feet up. Code will do what it needs to do. Opus will do what it needs to do until we hit a limit. During that time, we hit a limit. And I'm sure everybody's hit their weekly limits here, right? And I thought, well, this is a great opportunity for me to go test the platform and see how it's done in all this production. And then through the magic of time travel, I went back from version 16 straight back to version 2. So I was really pissed off, right? At that stage, I was just not happening. So I couldn't get Opus back online because we reached our limit. I had to wait a little bit. And then once Opus came back on, I said, hey, listen, since you've introduced this code into this relationship, something going wrong. What's going on? So we went and looked at all the different models. We looked at all the design files. We looked at all the document files, all the specs, and we set some new hard rules. And those hard rules were, if we're going to keep working together, this is what everybody has to do. So, and we did. We had some sessions and effectively ended up with something that looks like this. So this is not a product demo, because in order for me to get a product demo, I have to ask Claude how to take it out of my PC and put it onto a web platform. But where's the nearest screen for me here? So if I just kind of give you a bit of a summary what it says. So I struggled a little bit with the design of it. This is not the final design, but it gives you a flavor of how it connects to you, how it connects to you as a platform. You ask it, how am I trading? It gives you an answer. Now, the reason I put this in there is because I was doing this presentation for Dom, and I kept on asking, how am I trading? Give me a shorter response. Give me a shorter of what I am, who I am. And then nothing actually annoyed it. He said, you keep asking me the same question. What do you want from me, right? These voice notes are effectively voice activations that if you go back into a market position, it'll recognize that you're straight back in, same direction. This is not your rhythm. This is not what you should be doing. 5 for 5 today, all within your edge windows. Show me some patterns. So all of that text here. And then we have an edge alignment. So in that particular moment, it had 69% win rate across 773 trades. I'm working on that in terms of to be a little bit more concise to where you are within your particular session. In streaks and something called the Guardian. So Sheldon has multiple levels of watchers, guardians, profiles, whatever else, like 40 different agents underneath it. But effectively, Guardian works in the sense that it speaks at the right moment, at the right time, in the right tone to let you know how you're doing and what you're doing. So, yeah, so that's the product. I'm kind of conscious I'm running a little bit out of time. So in order to move on, it hasn't been all smooth sailing with Claude. You know, I got told off a couple of times. This one particular one was when I reached a stage and I said to Claude, I said, well, unless we build this, it's useless. We're not going to do it. And the whole product's gone out the window. And it went, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go and do something else. Thanks very much. So, you know, we're working on our relationships. Things are getting better and things are improving, but it's not always smooth sailing with it. In terms of final thoughts of where it's at, I think for me as a non-technical user, one of the things that I found really easy was the coding output. Visual design, I kept on getting, you guys know the terminology, AI slop. It kind of gives you, is that my time?
Oh, no.
All right. Thanks very much. It kept on giving me really a design that I wasn't happy with, so a lot of back and forth in terms of the actual visual design work. And one of the hardest thing I found was idea to screen, which effectively means all of us, whether we have products related or not products related, we all have an idea of what we want it to look like, right? And taking that idea through all those different steps, through design work, coding, databases, output, in order to be useful as it is, that's probably the hardest part for me. One of the things I'm exploring right now is something called Beyond Sheldon. So the way I've designed this particular architecture is data-agnostic, which effectively means it doesn't really matter what you feed into it. I was leaning on my kind of behavioral assessment background. It doesn't really matter what data you put into it. If it has an impact on a decision and outcome, Sheldon can tell you in probability whether it's actually going to be likely you're going to make X, Y, whatever it is, decision, right? So you can feed it into a number of different environments, which is something that we're exploring. So, and that's it, really. That's me. That's my 15 minutes of fame. Thank you very much for listening. And as the last particular slide, that's my LinkedIn. If you guys want to link in with me, then that's great. And the journey continues. And until next time, thank you very much. Okay.
Do we have any questions before you head off? Okay. All right. Can you repeat the questions?
Yes, of course.
Once they ask them.
Of course.
What do you use to trading? So you have C# in there. What system do you connect to?
So that connects directly to a platform called NinjaTrader. Yeah, that's the most kind of that I found that works on.
Not MetaTrader, right?
No, MetaTrader. I don't really use MetaTrader. I've used TT, CQG, but I found that this particular one for what I wanted to do was the easiest to code C into, webhook it back into an LLM, so it kind of produces an output. And sorry, and the question was, what platform do I use? Sorry. Hi.
You sort of built this thing to reinforce your trading style.
Yeah.
How do you stop it from essentially learning on and reinforcing your own behavioral biases and just compounding forever?
Okay, so the question is, I'll let you ask the question because that was a complicated one.
If you're training this on yourself in your own trading style, how do you stop it from reinforcing and essentially compounding your own behavioral biases forever?
That's a great question. I haven't really kind of explored that much. The way I kind of designed it was so it knows what good is, what bad is. And the way it compounds behavior is it notifies me when I'm doing well in that kind of, and I have a whole design spec. And believe me, I spent actual weeks creating this, what good is, what bad is. And then it compounds those behaviors through its own knowledge and kind of goes, this is good, this is what good looks like, this is what bad looks like. Now, another kind of B answer to that is that just because you've made a bit of cash, it's not necessarily a good outcome, right? And just because you're losing something is not necessarily a bad outcome. It's all about how you go through the process and your own decision layers to reach a point of execution and what that outcome is over a period of time. Now, I've kind of I spoke to somebody earlier and I said, I've got to a stage now where Opus is saying we need to introduce Markov sequences, Bayesian models, and all sorts of things. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah, that's good. Just tell me what it's all about. So yeah, so kind of working, it's a work in progress. Sorry, one last question.
So the most important one, did it improve the results?
Do you know what? Actually, what it improved so far, it improved my own behavior. And what I mean by that, it wasn't a financial outcome for me. It was, I was sitting there and I've been in a couple of positions and then I had this kind of, right, I think I'm in a groove now. I can go back in because I see an opportunity. And I said, hey, Sheldon, I'm kind of feeling this. I want to go back in. And then it came up with a statistic to say, that's fine. And actually, one thing I should reinforce is that it has a knowledge base of 1,000 different points based on psychological and trading type of behavior, right? So what it did, it effectively said, that's normal for you to feel that, but based on your stats, this is where you want to take a half an hour break and come back to the screen because you start on a losing streak at this point.
Sorry, just one
Sure.
question.
Of course.
Are you going to release this live and any stats on how much money you're making on it that we could make as well? Nice.
Yeah. Trading is one of those fickle things where unfortunately you have to have your own way of doing it. And this is what I kind of say, right? There's a million traders out there with a million different ways of doing it. And unless it fits your own personal profile, it's just not going to work. Sorry, mate. But I know a yellow Lambo YouTube guy you can go and see. So there's one more question at the front here, mate.
Mine was quite
Similar.
I have a question.
Yeah, so hi.
So for the calculation, how did
Yeah.
you sort of build the calculation? Like you talked about context,
Yeah.
about 1,000 decision points for like bias and
Yeah.
behavioral patterns. But what was the mathematical calculations? Like how did you combine all of that?
Sure. So the question was, what was the mathematical equation for me to actually build all those different biases? So it had the 1,000 reference is specific to trading and psychological behavior references in trading environments, right? I have what I call 84 different buckets, personality buckets, and they effectively then draw different data at different points, cross-correlated with a market condition, my behavior style that would produce a certain outcome. Now, I don't know the mathematical calculation, how it does it, but it just goes into a magical box and it comes up with a solution. Sorry, that's probably a really terrible answer.
That's okay.
One last question
Sure.
from my side. So you're using, or you use Claude and Claude Code to build it.
Yeah.
Is it also using the Claude API
Yes.
in the background?
Yes, it is. So I use Code AI Chat for the design conversations. I use Visual Studio and Claude Code for the coding conversations. And I use Anthropic API for the LLM model for the data to, once it comes in from all the different agents, to be translated into an outcome, not an outcome, but effectively like a speech or a text box that comes out and tells you what it is, right? Yeah.